So to develop distributed application, we will use web services or RESTful services. Okay. Then next, what are the advantages of going for Spring WebMVC? WebMVC components are loosely coupled and they are clearly defined. They will support multiple presentation technologies, and it is supporting for form binding. Form data will be captured in the form of object. Okay, MVC provided form tag library and it is supporting for form validations also. After that, we discussed about architecture. MVC architecture contains several components like front controller, the handler mapper, controller, model and view, view resolver and view component. Okay, so here whenever a request comes to the MVC application, how that request will be handled. Whenever a request comes to the web application, how that request will be handled. This is the diagram which is representing Spring MVC architecture and request execution flow in the Spring MVC. Whenever we send a request, that request will be received by dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet is a predefined servlet available in the Spring MVC, which is going to act as a front controller that is responsible for handling request and response. Then dispatcher servlet will give the request information to the handler mapper. Handler mapper will identify this request should be processed by which controller. Then dispatcher servlet will go and call that controller. Controller will handle the request and the controller will return model and view object. Controller will return model and view object. Model represents data in key value format. View represents logical file name. Then that logical file name dispatcher servlet will give to view resolver. View resolver will identify where that view file is available. Where is the location of the view? What is the location of the view? And what is the view technology? Those things will be identified by view resolver. Then dispatcher servlet will give the view name to view component. Then view component will render model data on the view file and will give to dispatcher. Then dispatcher servlet will send that as a final response to the client. This is called Spring MVC architecture. I'm repeating once again. Dispatcher servlet is a predefined servlet which will act as a front controller, which is responsible for handling the request and response. Dispatcher servlet will give the request information to handler mapper. Handler mapper will identify this request should be processed by which controller. Controller will execute the request, will return model and view object. Model represents data in key value format. View is a logical file. Dispatcher servlet will give the view file to view resolver. View resolver will identify where is that view file and what is the view technology. Then dispatcher servlet will give the view file to view component with the model data. Then view component will render model data on the view file, will give it back to dispatcher. Then dispatcher will send that as a response to the client. This is the architecture. Now let's theoretically we understand the architecture. Today we will develop one application and we will understand this practically. Today we will understand this diagram practically by developing one application. Very good. Building first web application using Spring Boot. Developing first web application by using Spring Boot. Guys, concentrate carefully. Now actual movie started, guys. Actual movie started. Because nowadays nobody will use the Spring Boot to develop a web application. Am I right or not? Nobody will use Spring Boot to develop a standalone application. Nobody is using Spring Boot to develop a standalone application. People are using Spring Boot to develop the web applications. Mainly REST APIs people are developing by using Spring Boot. Okay, let's concentrate on this. Building first web app using Spring Boot. Building first web application using Spring Boot. Guys, concentrate carefully. Create Spring Starter project using IDE. Create Spring Starter project using IDE. While creating the project, while creating the project, while creating the project, select below starter. What is that starter? Spring Boot, Spring Boot Starter Web. Okay. In order to develop a web application, what we need to do? We need to use web starter. We need to use web starter. Above starter will provide Apache Tomcat as default embedded server. Above starter will provide Apache Tomcat as the default embedded server. That means here, in order to develop a web application, you no need to download and set up the server. Server will come along with our application. Who is providing that server? Embedded server is providing by web starter. If you want to develop a web application, or if you want to develop a REST API by using Spring Boot, you need to go for web starter. Whenever you select a web starter, it will give you Apache Tomcat as the default embedded server. It will give Apache Tomcat as the default embedded server. Are you guys able to follow me? Above starter will provide Apache Tomcat as default embedded server. Apache Tomcat will provide that as a default embedded server. Okay. Now, second step, create controller class with required methods. Create controller class with required methods. Okay. Bind the methods to HTTP request. Bind the method to HTTP request. Then fourth step, create a view file. Then fifth step, configure view resolver in application.properties file. Then run the application and test it. Guys, can you please read the steps now? There are 6 steps are available in order to develop our first web application by using Spring Boot. Create the starter project using IDE. While creating the project, we need to select one dependency which is called web starter. By using web starter, we can develop the web application. Web starter will provide a Tomcat as a default server. Once it is there, you can create a controller class, write the methods in the controller to handle the request, bind that method to HTTP request, create a view file, configure view resolver in application.properties file, run the application and test it. Run that application and test it. Good. Fine. Now go here guys. Let's start building our first web application by using Spring Boot. All of you clear with these steps? Here generally web applications we need to deploy in the server. But for Spring Boot, do we need to deploy the web application or it will deploy automatically? How you will run your servlet application, guys? How you will run your servlet application? Servlet application you will run by using a Tomcat server. So you need to download and install the Tomcat server. But here, do we need to download and install Tomcat server or we no need to download and install Tomcat server? Do we need to download and install the Tomcat server or we no need to download and install the Tomcat server? We no need to do that. because it is provided by the Spring Boot, that is called embedded server. Okay, now check it. Let's start with our development. Let's get started with our development. Okay, fine, fine. File, new, Spring Starter project. Let's go for Spring Starter project. In Spring Starter project, we are selecting Web Starter. Now, first application we are going to create by using Spring Boot. That is our 15th application, Spring Boot WebMVC app. Spring Boot WebMVC app. Click on next. Here guys, select Web Starter. Spring Boot Web Starter. Now see this. Whenever you select this Web Starter, what the message it is giving? Documentation. Build web including RESTful applications using MVC. Uses Apache Tomcat as the default embedded container. That means in order to develop a web application, in order to develop a REST API, we can go for Web Starter. It is using Apache Tomcat as the default embedded container. Good. Click on next. Click on finish. I'm creating first web application by using Spring Boot with the help of Web Starter. Spring Boot Starter Web we are using. Spring Boot Starter Web we are using. Okay. Project is getting created. What is reactive web? That we will discuss in the microservices. Not now. Okay. Currently we are going for Web Starter. Yeah. Right guys. Project got created. Now see here pom.xml file. Go to this project pom.xml file. Guys, first project will take time to understand. Okay. Yeah. Project created. Can you see here starter web? Can you see here starter web? Dependency we selected by default. Test dependency also we got. Boot starter web, boot starter test dependency we got. That's it. Now let us create one controller class. Let us create one controller class. New class welcome controller. I'm creating inside controller package. I'm creating class name as welcome controller. What is controller? Controller is the one which is responsible to handle the request and return model unto view. Okay, I'm taking controller. How to represent Java class as a controller? How to represent our Java class as a controller? To represent Java class as a controller, we are going for one annotation called @controller. @controller annotation will represent our Java class as a Spring controller which is responsible to handle the request. Now see here, controller is one annotation available in the Spring which is used to represent our Java class as a Spring controller. Okay. Now inside this controller, I am writing one method which is responsible to handle welcome request. Which is responsible to handle welcome request. Right. Now let me go for public. What controller is going to return? Model and view object. What is the return type of the controller? What controller will give, sir? Model and message. Okay, now here my method should return model and view is equal to new model and view. mav dot set mav dot add object data. What data you want to send? I want to send one message. Welcome to Spring Web MVC. Welcome to Spring Web MVC. Welcome to Spring Web MVC. That is my message. And mav dot set view name. What is the view name you want to return? I want to return index. Index is my web page name. Return model and view. Return model and view. This method is going to return model and view object. This method is going to return model and view object. Are you guys able to follow me? How I'm creating a controller class? In order to represent one Java class as a controller, we are using @controller annotation. Inside the controller, I'm writing one method. Method name can be anything. I'm using welcome message. Inside this method, I'm writing a logic where I'm constructing model and view object, and I'm setting the data in the form of key and value, and I'm setting view name, and my method is returning model and view object. This method I want to bind to HTTP request. To bind this method to HTTP GET request, I'm using get mapping /welcome. Okay, whenever you send a request with /welcome, then request will come to this method. Whenever you send a request to this method, whenever you send a request to /welcome, then request will come to this method. Then request will come to this method. Are you guys able to understand what is get welcome /welcome? /welcome is the method URL pattern. /welcome is the method URL pattern. /welcome is the method URL pattern. Are you able to follow this? Perfect. What is the view name it is returning? What is the view name it is returning? Web page. Which page it should display? Index is the web page name. Index is the web page name. So some pages should be displayed in the browser, na? Some JSP should be displayed, na? This is the name of the view. This is the name of the view. This is the data. This is the view file name. Okay. So here in the web application, controllers will be available to handle the request. In the web application, controllers will be available to handle the request. Right? What that controller will do? Controller will execute the logic and the controller will return view name and model data in the form of model and view. Model and view dot add object key value. Using this key, you can access this value in the web page. Which web page this method should display? This method should display the web page with the name called index. Index is a JSP or index is a time leaf. Controller don't know. Controller don't know what is our view technology. Okay. Now let us create this view file. Go to src main. Where is the web folder? New folder called web app. There should be one web app folder. New folder. I'm creating folder name as views. Inside the views, I'm creating a file with a name called index.jsp. Index.jsp. One second, guys. JSP file, which is index.jsp. Here I'm using $of key, which is called as dollar of key. Key, what is the key that we used? Message is the key. So what is the view file name? Index. Why I am using view file name as only index? Because controller method setting view file name as index with the same file name, there should be a view file. So view file name is index.jsp. How to access the data available in the model? Model is representing the data in the form of key value. So I am using that key with the expression language to get that value. Okay. So once it is done, these steps, project got created, controller got created, binded to HTTP request, created a view file. Configure view resolver in the applicational properties file. Go to applicational properties file. We need to configure view resolver. What is that? Spring dot mvc dot view dot prefix. Where the view files are available? View files are available inside views folder. What is the suffix of that file? Spring dot mvc dot view dot suffix. Suffix means extension. What is the extension of that view file? .js. So this is our view resolver configuration. This is our view resolver configuration. What is the view resolver? It will identify where is the view file and what is the view technology. So I'm telling to view resolver, prefix is /views, suffix is .jsp. Prefix is /views, suffix is .jsp. View resolver. We have configured. Run the application and test it. Let's try to run the application. Sir, we will get some problems. We will understand the problems and we will resolve the problems. Run as boot app. Okay. I'm trying to run my application. Application failed, guys. What is the problem? Can you see the problem? Can you see the problem? Can you see what is the problem? Tomcat server is trying to start on the port number 8080. Tomcat server trying to start on the port number 8080. Already Oracle database running on the port number 8080. That's why we need to change it. How to change the port number for the Tomcat? Server.port is equal to 9090. 8080 I cannot use because in my laptop Oracle database is running with the 8080 port number. I cannot use that port number. That's why I'm configuring the port number as 9090. Right click, run as boot app. Now see, our application is running or not? Can you guys see? Application is running. Starting the application. Initializing web application context. Tomcat server started on the port number 9090. What is the URL of our application? Localhost colon 9090/welcome. Guys, observe carefully what I am trying to do. Observe carefully what I am trying to do. Localhost colon 9090/welcome. Observe carefully. Oh my god. One file is downloaded, guys. Can you see here? One file is downloaded. See my mouse cursor? Can you see one file is downloaded or not? When I send you a request, localhost colon 9090/welcome, send a request. One more welcome file is downloaded. So JSP is rendering on the browser or JSP is getting downloaded in the browser? Can you guys tell me? JSP is getting rendered or JSP is getting downloaded? JSP is getting downloaded. What is the reason? The reason is here, are we deploying our application to the server or our application is deployed to the embedded server by the Spring Boot? Our application is deployed by the Spring Boot into embedded server. That embedded Tomcat server cannot compile the JSPs by default. That embedded Tomcat server cannot compile the JSPs by default. In order to compile the JSPs, what we need to do is, we need to add one more dependency which is called Tomcat embed Jasper. We need to add one more dependency which is called as Tomcat embed Jasper in our application form.xml. If you add that Tomcat embed Jasper, then it can compile our JSPs. Version number we don't need to add. Just I am adding one dependency which is called as Tomcat embed Jasper. What is the dependency, guys? Tomcat embed Jasper, that is used to compile the JSP files. That is used to compile the JSP files and render the JSP files. Okay, stop the server. Stop the server. Now do it again. Right click on the project, run as boot app. Right click on the project, run as boot app. Application started. Now go and send the request. Localhost :9090 /welcome. Send a request. Now is it rendering? Welcome to Spring Web MVC. Is it displaying the message now? Earlier my JSPs got downloaded, my JSP getting rendered and it is displaying the message on the browser. This is index.jsp page. Index.jsp page. Okay, now let me tell you what I have done. Create Spring Starter project using IDE. I have created one starter project using IDE. Whenever I am creating the project, I have selected one dependency called Web Starter. Why Web Starter? If you want to develop any web application by using Spring Boot, then you need to take care of the Web Starter. Okay. Above starter will provide Apache Tomcat as the default container, default server. We don't need to deploy our application to server separately. Apache Tomcat will come by default. Once it is done, we need to create a controller class with the required methods. Now I'm creating a class called Welcome Controller. Welcome Controller. How to represent our class as a controller? To represent our class as a controller, we will use @controller annotation. Inside that controller, we are writing the method. The method is binded to HTTP GET request with /welcome as the URL pattern. Method is binded to GET request with welcome as the URL pattern. That method is returning model and view object. Model and view object. Model represents data in the form of key value. Key value. View name represents logical file and I am returning that model and view object. Okay, index is the view name. What I have done is, inside the src main folder, I have created a web app folder. Inside the web app folder, I have created views folder. Inside the views folder, I have created index.jsp. I have created these three. Model and view. Aslam, do you have brain or not, man? I'm creating an object by using new operator. You are asking a question, it is a class or interface. Can I create an object for an interface using new operator? What is this idiot? You should not ask a question whether it is a class or interface. If it is not a class, how can I create the object by using new operator? What kind of silly question that is? Apply your common sense. You are not learning core Java. right? Now, once this controller method got created, I created a view file. What is the name I am using for the view file? Index.jsp. How I have created that view file? First, in the main folder, I have created web app. Inside the web app, I have created views. Inside the views, I have created index.jsp. Can I use any name for the JSP, or I have to use only index? Can I use any name for the JSP? I have to use only index. I have to use only index because my controller is already returning the view name as index. So my view file name should be index only. My view file name should be index only. I cannot use any other name. Once it is done, I'm configuring view resolver. Dispatcher servlet don't know where is the view file. Controller return a model and view. Model means data in the form of key value. View means logical file name. Dispatcher servlet don't know where is the view. Then dispatcher servlet will give the view file to view resolver. What is the view resolver? Prefix is views, suffix is .jsp. That means I'm telling where is my view file, what is the extension of the view file. So view resolver will take the view name, will go to this location, will identify the index.jsp, will give to dispatcher. Then dispatcher will give the model data to the view file, then view file will be rendered, then finally response will come to the browser. Can you take the screenshot of the folder structure? Where I have created controller, what I have configured in the properties file, where is my view file available? All of you take a screenshot in the mobile. Completed? Yeah. Now, for you guys, I'm going to create the one more project, guys. Observe carefully. What are the steps that I'm going to follow? Observe carefully. I'm going to create one more web application in front of you. First application completed. Now I am creating second application. Observe carefully. File, new, starter project. What is the name I am giving? 16th web application. 16th Spring Boot Web MVC App 2. Here, packaging type jar or var, anything is fine. If you select jar, then web app folder we have to create manually. This web app folder we have to create manually. If you select var, that web app folder will be created by default. If you select as a jar, we have to create the web app folder. If you select as a var, that web app folder will be created. I am going with jar only. Okay. So this is my 16th application. 16th Spring Web MVC App 2. Second application I am creating, guys. I am not changing anything. Maven is the build tool. Packaging type is the jar. Version of the Java 8. Language is the Java. Packaging type jar only. Now click on next. Here I need to select one dependency. Which dependency I am selecting? Web dependency. Why? In order to develop a web application, we need to select the web starter. I am selecting only web dependency. Click on next, click on finish. So second web application is getting created. Second web application is getting created. Second web application is getting created. Close unrelated projects. Okay, now go to pom.xml. We have web starter. Only web starter is sufficient? No, I'm using JSP as a presentation technology, so web starter is not sufficient. We need to add one starter called Tomcat embed Jasper. From where we can find out that, sir, whenever we are creating a project, we have selected web starter. Can we select the Jasper also? No, Jasper we need to add separately. We need to download, we need to copy Tomcat embed Jasper from mbnrepository.com. Take the Tomcat embed Jasper from here and add it here. Take it from here and add it here. Tomcat embed Jasper. I am adding that. Okay. Spring Boot starter web dependency. Tomcat embed Jasper dependency we are adding. Take the screenshot, guys. What are the dependencies are there in the pom.xml? Two dependencies are there in the pom.xml. One is a web starter, another one is a Tomcat embed Jasper. Web starter is used to develop the web application and which will give Tomcat as the default embedded. Embed Jasper dependency is used to render the JSPs in the browser. If I don't use this dependency, JSPs are downloading. I don't want the JSP to download. I want to render the JSP in the browser. To render the JSP in the browser, I'm adding Tomcat embed Jasper dependency. Perfect. Okay. Now create one controller. New class. I'm creating one controller with a name called greet controller. Now, inside this controller, I'm writing one method. Controller method will return what? Model and view object. This is greet message method. Okay. Create the object model and view. Model and view is equal to new model and view. Model and view is equal to new model and view. Model and view is a predefined class available in the Spring Web MVC. Okay. Set the data to the model and view. Model and view dot add object of key comma value. Key is what? Message. Value is what? Anything. I'm giving good evening. Hello, good evening. That is my message. And model and view dot set view name. Can I set any name for the view? Yes, you can set any name for the view. I'm giving the view name as an index. Then finally, I am returning model and view object. This is our Java class which contains a method. That method is returning model and view. In the model and view, I'm setting the data in the form of key and value, and I'm setting the view name. This class I need to represent as a controller. For that, I'm using one annotation called @controller. Now, this method I need to bind to a GET request. For that, I'm using @getMapping /greet. @getMapping/greet. Okay, /greet is the URL pattern of this method. /greet is the URL pattern for this method. Samjha? Greet controller having @controller annotation, having a method. Method is binded to GET request. Method URL is the /greet. Method URL is the /greet. Are you guys clear with this one? Now we need to create the view file. What should be the view file name now? View file name should be index, because I'm returning index. Suppose if I give the view file name as some dashboard, then what should be my view file name? Dashboard only. Whatever the view name you set here, with that view name you need to display the file. With that name you need to create the file. Samjha? Whatever the view name you will give, with that name you need to create the JSP. If I am giving the file name as a dashboard, now I need to create a file with a name called dashboard here. main folder, src main. In the src main, I'm creating one folder with a name called web app folder. Inside the web app, I can create a folder, anything. I'm creating the folder name as views. Inside the views, I'm creating one JSP file, JSP presentation technology. What is the name should be? Dashboard only. Why dashboard? Because my controller is returning the view name as a dashboard I've created. Access the model data key with the expression language. Access model data by using expression language, I'm accessing that. Now go to properties file, configure server port. Server port number you can configure anything. You can configure 1111 also. Fine. 8080 is the default. I cannot go with the default because Oracle is already using 8080. So server port number I am giving as 1111. You can give anything. Now I need to configure view resolver. Spring.mvc.view.prefix. Where is the view file available? Location is the views folder. What is the suffix of that view file? Spring.mvc.view.suffix is equal to .jsp. Spring.mvc.view.suffix is equal to .jsp. This is view resolver configuration. Now run our application. Run as boot app. Run as boot app. Localhost colon 9090/grid. Hello, good evening. That should come as a response. It is not responding. Localhost colon 9090/grid. It's not working. Why? What is the port number? 1111. I should not give 9090. 1111. Hello, good evening. Are you able to get that response in the browser? Are you able to get the response in the browser? Two applications I have developed. Two applications I have developed in front of you to teach you web application. Okay, let me give the file dependencies, whatever you need to add. First one, web starter you need to add. First one is the web starter and the second one is the Tomcat embed Jasper. Web starter and Tomcat embed Jasper. Web starter you can select at the time of project creation. Embed Jasper आप manually add करना पड़ेगा. You need to take it from the mbnrepository.com and you have to add that in the form.xml. Once it is done, we are going to create